this is a fun part of the. I mean, it's all been fun for me, and but this I find really rewarding. This part of this of the presentation, similarities between Jeff Salvers and Suzy Hansen's contact events. So I kind of just want to, break down some formalities, kind of relax a little bit. And yeah, I think so. What I did was I organized similar sections. And so I showed them to Suzy and we kind of both agreed. We've actually done a run through of this part of the presentation. We kind of both really feel that this is all kind of accurate. And so it's just very fascinating to go through, and I hope it creates a picture for you, the listener, about uh, what the alien presence is really all about, and what people can experience with it, and even to what to expect as disclosure is coming upon us. So it starts with consciousness. As I said before, the phenomenon is all about consciousness, and the beings interact with the human concept of the afterlife. Now, a significant part of my story is the first contact event, as I explained with the Ross Coulthart, quote, that listen, the very, very first contact event, I see my afterlife. And I was speaking this way publicly without having really any reference that this could just happen to someone. And it did, it happened to me. And it's very significant that that's how they used that as a major part of the rising. And so yeah, Suzy herself also has a concept of the afterlife. Suzy, do you want to explain that at all?
Yes, a couple of my chapters deal with when I was an 8-year-old child, and I was shown a ball of light, introduced to a ball of light that I was told was the soul of my future son. So I'm 8. I haven't grown up and got married and had children yet, but I'm introduced to this ball of light waiting in the afterlife and being educated by the ETs on their craft in preparation for taking on a task in this life and being born as my son. Was also later that year shown I had a string of lights brought into the room that I was in with the ETs, and I was told that these would all be people who would help me in the future at different stages of my life. And at that point in time, they'd come on the craft as balls of light, but some of them had already incarnated into life, so they'd left their body to attend this meeting, and some had not yet incarnated, so in life they would be younger than me. So the whole concept of the afterlife becomes almost like the present life or the continuous endless life, because it's all related, and the barriers fall away once you go on the craft and you understand these things.
Brilliant. Brilliant. The entities understand human energy fields. So significant to my to my experience. They're building me up for the rising. And so I saw the afterlife. It was a significant download of energy, if you will, of my consciousness or my spirit. And then they were allowing that to span out over time as it integrated into my identity. And they basically used a device that worked with my energy field. And that happens twice. It happens in my fifth contact event and the sixth contact event, where they seem to be very aware of either a magnetic field or just a consciousness energy field of the human body. Either or, they actually have technology that was able to interact with it. And very fascinatingly, Suzy herself also has experience with aliens understanding human energy fields.
Yes, when I was very little, going on board craft and going to what I call the playroom with other children and other ET children, they had something near that I nicknamed the lullaby bed, which when children came on board craft, if they were distressed at all, or if they were living in circumstances that were not conducive to them being able to open up their abilities on the craft, so they were quite shut down, coming from bad environments, they were put on this bed, which was rather like a scanning machine, really. I could see this light rather like a photocopier going backwards and forwards underneath. So they were harmonizing the energy or the frequency of the child and bringing a soothing, calming kind of uh, feeling to their visit. But on other occasions, I've also attended lectures where the ETs were actually instructing us humans about the human energy field and telling us things that we didn't know about it ourselves, that they understand. So there's a great deal that we can learn from them in the future, and I'm sure that will happen.
Brilliant. Oh, that's some of my technology there. That was this was from my fifth contact event, and where I stood on a device, the elder used it, and then these kind of energy grid bars were kind of going through me, and she told me it was aligning my energy fields. So very fascinating. There's so many fascinating crossovers, and this is another tiny details that are very significantly similar between mine and Suzy's contact events. And it has to do with the vortex, the idea that of this kind of vortices and vortexing energy fields. So in my first contact event, when I'm in the white room and I got turned into an orb, part of it is as part of the play, we would spin together. And we would get really close in kind of a vortex, spin together and get really close, kind of have a unity experience with the other orb, whoever it was, whether it's the elder or the other aliens who got turned into orbs, and we have this kind of joyful experience and blow apart. But it was this kind of spinning activity. Uh, that's one. The seventh contact event, the elder herself, to get into a deeper part of my own consciousness, she turns, basically a vortex comes out of her eye, and it has this kind of hypnotic experience and goes deeper. She basically programs me for the rising. 21st contact event. I'm basically taken on board a craft that is self propelled or self alive, or seem to be kind of on its own, with no driver, and it takes me, and then it's taking me to a location, a base actually undersea, and the craft has a vortex in the front, and it's just on its kind of computer screen. So it's this kind of alive craft that's got a vortex just sitting there spinning. And it's this extra detail of coming back to Suzy's content for this presentation that I just was really blown away. Rudy Schultz has a really great scientist epilogue in her book, and he has this explanation that's just very fascinating. I suspect that this onboard music visual ecstatic experience is based upon profound spiraling waves of consciousness. He's actually referring to, he's writing about Suzy's experience of what she saw in the White Room. And so she saw the entity spinning. And so he has an explanation behind it. He also says, since it is understood that the spacecraft is under thought control, it is likely that amplification of thought waves of spiraling form is a principal attribute of the machine craft, which is often described as being semi-alive. And so I just found that a really neat crossover. That's exactly what was happening with the 21st contact event, where I'm in the craft. It is kind of its own, its own entity. It's driving me, and it's got a spiral sitting there. So it's his comment is right in line with what I experienced, and kind of providing some answer that I didn't actually have before. Yeah, just very fascinating. By the way, also connecting vortices to the consciousness. In Sanskrit, they have what's called the three gunas, which are the past, present, and future, and the guna represents the spiral. The actual word means spiral. So it's again another kind of crossover with consciousness and vortex, and I just find that really powerful.